Welcome back. This month's JW broadcast, it wants you to elevate your thinking to agree with God's thinking. So the title of my talk is Elevated Thinking, or is it mind control? Well, let's take a look at this. It sounds noble, doesn't it? To elevate your thinking to agree with God's thinking. But under that slogan hides an old Watchtower formula. They redefine thinking like God as, well, thinking like them. So let's see how spirituality gets turned into obedience. We'll take a look at their little introduction.
What do you think? Is it possible for an imperfect human to elevate his or her thinking to agree with God's thinking? And if so, how can we do this?
So from that, they would like us to take home elevated thinking, but we're going to look at this, is it mind control? Okay, so the first section is climbing the mountain of obedience. They start with Isaiah chapter 2, the mountain of Jehovah. But that mountain isn't spiritual growth, it's hierarchy. The climb is obedience. The summit is conformity. Let's take a look at that.
Well, what happens when you climb a mountain? It takes effort. It can be tiring. You may stumble. You may even suffer some injury while you climb. But if you persevere, what's the situation when you get to the top? You're elevated. You have a view that you would never have experienced if you hadn't made the climb. The reward makes it worth the effort.
So what do you think? Pure worship equals organizational loyalty. Pure worship equals organizational loyalty. They call it elevation, but it's really submission with better branding.
In a spiritual sense, that's true of Jehovah's elevated worship. If we're willing to put forth the effort to make the climb, that is, to learn Jehovah's standards and apply them in our lives, pure worship elevates us.
Okay, we're going to move forward to the next section, forgiveness as control. Next, they preach forgiveness. David, then Bathsheba, then Corinth. But it's conditional. Forgiveness only flows through the elders. You and I know that. The sinners are restored, the victims, well, they stay silent. Let's take a look at that.
Because he was unrepentant, Paul instructed the elders to remove the man from the congregation. And yet, perhaps only months later, Paul instructed the elders to kindly forgive and comfort the man, to confirm their love for him. Why? The discipline.
So here we see forgiveness that protects the guilty, not the hurt. Protects the guilty, but not the hurt.
Some faithful ones in the congregation may have felt resentment toward the wrongdoer. It's no different today. When the elders determine that a repentant wrongdoer is allowed to remain in the congregation, or one is reinstated back into the congregation, we might find it challenging to display a welcoming spirit, especially if we were personally affected in some way by the wrongdoing.
We're going to move forward. Forgive and forget. It's the weaponization of mercy. The weaponization of mercy. This part hits hardest for abuse survivors. They tell viewers to imitate Jehovah, forgive even those who caused deep harm. And if you still feel pain, don't worry, they say, soon those memories, they won't even be called to mind. Well, that sounds comforting until you hear what it really means. It means stop feeling. stop talking and wait for paradise to fix it. Let's take a look at this.
Will they come up into the heart? That day is fast approaching when any pain, including painful memories that we've experienced, will be completely undone. Such experiences will not.
So when we take a look at this, it's spiritual gaslighting. That's pain equals lack of faith. So if you're feeling pain, well then you don't have enough faith. You better pray more to Jehovah. It's spiritual gaslighting. For CSA survivors, that message says your trauma means you're not elevated enough. That isn't healing, folks. That's silencing. The next section is Jehovah's law firm. Jehovah's law firm. Jehovah has a law firm? Well, they celebrate a courtroom win in France, a tax ruling from 2011 framed as proof that Jehovah supports his people. But it wasn't divine justice, it was about money. Let's take a look at that.
Eventually, we moved back to California, but I still work closely with the legal department. One of the countries I worked with overseas was France. In 1998, the government there decided to impose a 60% tax on all the donations the branch received between the years 1993 to 1996. Soon after, they added a penalty to the tax, making the entire amount 108% of the donations received. No organization could pay that. So we began litigating. At this point in time,
So Jehovah's lawyer or legal PR? What do you think? Jehovah's lawyer or legal PR? We're going to move on. France, as we know in the latest news, well, there's the distraction and the damage control. And did you notice which country they chose to spotlight? France? Jim McCabe says Jehovah won here. But that's in 2011, the ECHR tax case. It's not about religion or abuse. But why did they pitch that now? Why now? Well, because now in 2025, France is back under scrutiny. Jehovah's Witnesses in France are back under scrutiny. The France government is re-examining the cult tax exemptions, child protection laws, and even the elders' judicial system. Well, current JWs in France right now, as of October 13th, and that's in a few days from now, but the elders and all of the pioneers, all the publishers in France, they're begging for lenience. They're writing letters to the government. So this broadcast replays a 14-year-old win when currently the governing body has mandated and said to write all these letters and flood the government with letters because they're going to be deregistered. It doesn't sound right. You see, that's not coincidence, folks. This is inculcation propaganda. It's a symbolic victory while they're losing ground. So now if you get them focusing on Jehovah made us win last time in 2011, then people won't focus on what's going on right now. Let's take a look at this.
as Jesus said in Matthew 10:18, to make it turn out to be a witness. So we had to put this in the brief. He consented to put it in 2011, when we won the case before the European Court of Human Rights. The victory was on a violation of Jehovah's Witnesses' freedom of religion. Jehovah won on the exact point he wanted, freedom of religion. We knew it was Jehovah's victory. It wasn't our victory.
So what do you think? Damage control, legal drama as spiritual victory? Moving on, the Blue Boys and the persecution narrative. The Blue Boys story, brave men, no doubt. But the Watchtower recycles their suffering to guilt modern members. If they risked prison, the Blue Boys, well, you can't miss a Zoom meeting. You know, these Blue Boys, look at what they did. And you're missing meetings, you know, even a Zoom meeting. Let's take a look at this.
Were drafted for military service, but because of their neutrality, the brothers were sent to prison.
Initially, when the brothers were sentenced to military prison, they were required to wear the army uniform, which of course they refused to do.
The brothers felt that dressing in those clothes would identify them with the military prisoners, and they took a stand on that. They wore blue overalls and hence became known as the Blue Boys.
Everyone knew the Blue Boys were Jehovah's Witnesses.
In the early days, the brothers served their entire sentence locked up in individual cells, and that made it very difficult for them to be able to meet together for worship. One of the brothers who served during those days was dead. I can just imagine. Meeting together in prison as we did made me realize that the privilege of meeting together is not our gift to Jehovah as much as his gift to us.
Yes.
And it really binds you together in a very special way.
It does. We really need the meetings. We need that spiritual strength.
Meeting attendance, I think especially since that time, has become a treasured gift. We don't easily want to miss our meetings, and certainly to be there in person if we can.
Hearing other brothers express their faith and giving you an opportunity to express your faith is a great source of encouragement, vital source.
It's not just a group of people who are learning the same thing. This is a spiritual family, and Jehovah knows that we need to draw together and encourage one another personally, particularly, as Paul said, as the day draws near.
Courage co-opted for compliance. That's what we just seen. Moving on, Brother Liang in China. Well, Brother Liang spent some 21 years in prison, allegedly. His faith was strong, but the message is suffering proves obedience. It conditions members to endure abuse without protest. Here it is.
Let's take Brother Martin's advice and fully embrace our Christian meetings. They really do encourage us as the day draws near. But meetings do even more. They prepare us for persecution by elevating our thinking to agree with God's. If the thought of persecution makes you anxious, rest assured you can stay faithful. You'll have Jehovah's Holy Spirit and loving care, just as Leo Liang did.
In 1958, there was pounding on the door. So I opened up, the police with pistols came in. They put the cuffs on me right away. Because of the opposition from the government, the preaching work became harder and harder. We prepared our minds and hearts to be arrested. How does a person recall scriptures? Well, if you copy and copy, it's more ingrained in your brain. So with the help of the Holy Spirit, you could recall what you learned. So the very day I was arrested, I prayed to Jehovah God, I will die faithful to you until death. I knew that if I'm in for the truth, Jehovah will protect me. My case never went to trial. I never got a court hearing. We had the worst kind of food in prison. They fed us rancid rice, 50% rice, 50% water. First few days in prison, you can't eat it. It was terrible. But after some time, you're hungry, you can eat it. We had to sleep like sardines in the cell, and 5 people had to sleep in it. I was transferred to the art department. It's freer than locked up in the cell the whole day, and it helped me to survive. I compile my own daily text in jail. Every day I'll concentrate on one text not to lose out on my spirituality. I had about 200 scriptures that I went over and over again, but I needed more scriptures, so I prayed to.
So what do we get from that? Obedience through suffering. Moving on, the book of Amos. They quote Amos to say Jehovah cares about mistreatment while enforcing one of the most cruel systems of shunning on earth. Imagine that. You see, that's just convenient. Quote Amos so people don't look at what you're doing. Let's take a look at this.
But how does that affect us?
Since Jehovah cares so deeply about how people are treated, I ask myself, what does Jehovah see when he looks at me? What is my reputation with him? Am I known for being kind, patient, merciful, or something else?
And how we treat people really stems from how we feel about them. Those nations severely mistreated people because they did not love their fellow man. So my feelings about people matter. So what about when someone offends me or does something unjust? Even though I don't harm them physically, how do I feel inside? Do I harbor animosity, hold a grudge, or put up a wall between us? Jehovah sees how Jehovah feels about matters.
There's still so much more. How about this repeated phrase? But you did not come back. What does that teach us about Jehovah? What can we learn from Amos about being courageous when we're threatened? And how are Jehovah's perfect standards highlighted by Amos' vision of Jehovah standing on a wall?
Please, let's keep going. We haven't even scratched the surface of the book of Amos.
How grateful we are that Jehovah, in his wisdom, created an arrangement to end all suffering.
So they preach compassion, but they practice cruelty. Moving on, wisdom from above. They warn against worldly wisdom. Translation, don't question, don't research, just obey. They call it modesty. I call it intellectual disarmament. Let's play the clip.
That we stay close to the wisdom from above, Jehovah's wisdom, and not be fooled by the so-called wisdom of this world. Now, we can tell if something is foolish or wise by the way it all turns out. Did it work or not work? Did things get better or things get worse? So what are some of the traits of wisdom from above? Let's open our Bibles to James chapter 3. James chapter 3, and we're going to see what true wisdom from above produces as works or result is with the modest ones. And that certainly proves true, doesn't it? Because a person who is modest, he's going to be reasonable, he's going to create peace, he's going to be ready to obey, he's going to communicate with fellow workers, they're going to enjoy working with him, and he will have a pleasant time himself. Wisdom from Jehovah is always better.
So here, think less, obey more. And our final point is a higher kind of love. The broadcast ends with a love song, but that higher love means cutting off your own family. Love is control wrapped in a melody. Here it is.
Father, you are my mother, and it is not by blood. It's a higher kind of love. You are my sister, you are my brother, you are my family like no other. And it is not by blood, no. It's a higher kind of love.
So what do we have? Love equals the loyalty test. It's all conditional. So, was this about elevating your mind or surrendering it? Every verse, every tear, every clip, it leads to the same goal: obedience. But real spirituality doesn't erase pain or silence truth. It listens, it heals, and it remembers. Truth deserves a voice. They say Jehovah will undo any damage. The former things won't even come to mind. But for survivors, that sounds like forget it ever happened. And healing means being heard, not silenced. And how did that part hit you? Let us know in the comments. Well, you know what I noticed about this October broadcast? Well, number one, the annual meeting was tame. This was loaded. It was 63 minutes worth of loaded information. No title, no explanation. They make you watch the whole thing to figure out what it's about. But if you listen closely, it's about prison. 2 full stories about life behind bars. What to do, what to think, even how to feel when you're locked away. Now, if you're in a group and it's a brotherhood, and if you're alone, it's a test of faith. And the message underneath it all, get ready. To all you Jehovah's Witnesses, get ready. Prison might be coming. And when it does, stay loyal. But loyal to who? Not to truth, not to the victims, to the men in New York who run this corporation. The very men now facing court depositions for hiding child abuse, for protecting predators instead of children. This isn't about money, folks. This isn't about freedom of religion. It's about freedom from accountability. They want you ready to go to prison for them, not for God. And they're dressing it up as faith. Freedom of religion, it doesn't equal freedom to hide crime, Jehovah's Witnesses. Freedom of religion does not equal hiding CSA. All of the shunning that has destroyed families, all of your blood doctrine that have killed literally thousands of people. In this broadcast, they brag. They brag about a victory in France, a decade-old tax case, recycled like it's prophecy. But here's the truth, folks. France isn't celebrating Watchtower. France, the Jehovah's Witnesses in France, they're being investigated. And the government is investigating the Jehovah's Witnesses. Why? Well, France is calling out child abuse cover-ups. France is challenging their elders' system. And France is saying what so many others are afraid to say: no more. So while Jehovah JW.org tells you Jehovah's behind them, the courts are catching up behind them. And this broadcast, this whole hour, it's a distraction, a spiritual smokescreen, while the walls start closing in. The real prison is the only one they built in your mind. And if you're one of Jehovah's Witnesses watching this right now, ask yourself, would you really go to prison for a group of men who spent decades hiding truth from you? And would you risk your freedom to protect their secrets? You don't owe them your silence. You don't owe them your loyalty. And you sure don't owe them your life. You've already done your time. And it's time to step out of the cell and to live free. Live your life with love. This has been Fixing My Faith. My name is Vern. The door is always open. Walk out. Walk out when you're ready. Bye for now. And keep living your life with love. We'll see you on the next video.